Have you ever been caught hiding something? Your report card from your parents? You stain the rug, maybe just drag the chair right over it. And we all know someone who's tried to hide something at work.
Dwight, I keep various weaponry strategically placed around the office. I saved Jim's life with a can of pepper spray I had Velcroed under my desk. People say, oh, it's dangerous to keep weapons in the home or the workplace.
And hiding classified documents is the worst thing you can do. Joe Biden told us that himself.
How anyone could be that irresponsible. And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? And it's just totally irresponsible.
Like a Babylon Bee headline, Joe Biden is under investigation for hiding highly classified documents in a closet for the last 6 years. Biden was stuffing classified top-secret documents at the Penn Biden Center right in the middle of Washington, D.C., right next door to a steakhouse and a short little walk from the Chinese embassy. What were these documents? Well, nothing major, just top-secret intelligence involving Iran, Great Britain, and Ukraine. Just taken out right when he was leaving the vice presidency in January 2017. So, what was in these documents that Joe Biden didn't want the incoming Trump administration to see? Details on the Iran nuke deal that Trump was set to cancel. You know, where the deal where Obama-Biden paid the Iranians $500 million in cash. What didn't Joe want Trump to see about the British? Did it have something to do with Chris Steele, Crossfire Hurricane, the Russia hoax? And it's pretty obvious what Joe wanted to hide from Trump about Ukraine. And at the same time, Biden was leaving with these classified documents. The last week of his vice presidency, he was flying to Ukraine. What was Biden doing in Ukraine on the last week of his vice presidency? You're telling me the prosecutor investigating his son's company gets fired, the company Burisma starts spreading money around Washington, Biden's flying to Ukraine and then runs away with classified documents right before Trump takes office? All of this happens at the same time? I mean, the media wanted Trump in prison for keeping Little Rocket Man's love letter at Mar-a-Lago. So how are they covering the news about Biden?
We all know that Trump is a liar and a thief, you know? To say that he obstructed and he lied. We don't think that Biden is a liar and a thief, so we give him the benefit of the doubt. That's
maybe it was an honest mistake because it was marked VP personal. It's important to know this has happened in the past. Former presidents, former vice presidents, former high-level officials accidentally take something. It's an honest mistake.
That pretty much sums up how the media covers politics. Democrats would never lie, except Biden did lie about not having classified documents. MSNBC interviewed Biden in 2018 at the Biden Center when it opened, and this is what he said.
In 2018, Joe Biden addressed his access to classified information in an interview with me, and it was in that office, the Penn Biden Center.
I don't have access to classified information anymore. I don't get briefed every morning by the agency, as I did for 8 years.
And so Biden kept classified information at the Biden Center. But the Penn Biden Center didn't open until 2018, and Biden left office in 2017. So where did these classified documents live for a year? Were they at Hunter's house, Nantucket? Someone's going to have to answer that. When the Biden think tank, which is an oxymoron, finally opened up, someone had to put them in Joe's private office. We know Hunter was excited about the Penn Biden Center opening up. He was emailing all of his buddies saying it was going to operate like the Clinton Global Initiative. And its goal would be wealth creation. It's a little different from what Joe sold it as.
I hope the Penn Biden Center will be established as a place where policymakers here at home and abroad will know they can be in touch with some of the best minds in the country and debate and formulate American foreign policy.
Well, the Penn Biden Center was actually a revolving door between the Bidens and the Chinese. As soon as the Penn Biden Center opened, China quadrupled its donations to UPenn. The Chinese funneled $55 million into UPenn. And UPenn was paying Biden $1 million salary. So who was paying for Joe's salary? The Chinese. Do you get it? The Chinese were paying Joe Biden $1 million a year, and it was just laundered through the Penn Biden Center. And just 5 miles away from the center was the Chinese embassy. The Biden Center was involved with the Chinese professors, academics, officials, double agents for the Communist Party. Now tell me this. What are Chinese spies physically closer to? A basement in a private club on an island off the coast of Florida, or a closet next to a steakhouse in Washington, D.C.? It's not like Joe was worried about the Chinese. Joe was in business with the Chinese. Joe was sharing an office with the Chinese communists just 2 miles away in Georgetown, remember? The big guy, Hunter, they all worked out of the same office. It's not like spies ever pose as janitors and steal documents in Washington, right? I mean, who were Joe's janitors at the Penn Biden Center? And remember Hunter's Fang, his research assistant who was a spy, Jackie Bao? Has Jackie Bao ever been to the Penn Biden Center? Did Jackie Bao ever excuse herself to go to the bathroom and just make the wrong turn right into Joe's locked closet? After Biden raided Trump's home, the White House said, Biden never would be guilty of what he had accused Trump of. Watch.
Can you say with certainty to the American people that President Biden, in his time as president, has not mishandled, improperly stored, done anything improper with classified information?
No, and then I'm going to move on.
No, so that was wrong. And the main difference is Joe Biden didn't have the authority to declassify anything as vice president. Donald Trump did. Joe Biden was asked about this today in Mexico City, and this is what he said.
People know I take classified documents and classified information seriously. When my lawyers were clearing out my office at the University of Pennsylvania, they set up an office for me, secure office in the Capitol. The 4 years after being vice president, I was a professor at Penn. They found some documents in a box in a locked cabinet, or at least a closet. And as soon as they did, they realized there were several classified documents in that box.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You say you're closing down the Biden Center all of a sudden in the middle of your presidency? That's strange. And second of all, you sent lawyers to close down the Penn Biden Center? You don't have a professional company to do that? You have lawyers pack your boxes? I'm not paying my lawyer, who can't lift anything, $1,200 an hour to move. And your lawyers just happen to find these documents a week before the midterms, November 2nd, when you knew the House was going to go Republican and they were going to crank up investigations. And this doesn't come out until 2 months later. And your lawyers, when they find top secret classified documents, which they're not even cleared to look at, don't call you. Hey, Joe, we found docs in your closet. What do you want us to do? They immediately, first call, ring the national archivists, the librarians. Come on. And you never asked your lawyers, hey, what'd you guys find? What's going on here? And your lawyers tell you, we're not going to tell you what kind of documents we found. You guys don't have attorney-client privilege? None of this adds up. And he read that statement. That wasn't off the cuff. The lawyers wrote what the president read. Something's going on here. And of course, he lied again. Biden was never a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. He just got paid by the Chinese to have a little think tank that made China look good. And guess who the head of the Biden Center is? Rahm Emanuel's brother, Ezekiel Emanuel. And once Biden started getting heat about all the Chinese cash going into his little center, guess what he does? He appoints the president of UPenn to be the ambassador of Germany. Gets her the hell out of the country. What else does Biden have hidden at the Biden Center? Remember, he had those files of the woman who accused him of sexual assault hidden away at the University of Delaware? Are we allowed to see those files? Nope. You're not allowed to look at the files. Are we allowed to see the Treasury reports of the 150 wire transfers from overseas that got flagged going to Biden family bank accounts? Nope. Can't see those either. We got a lot of things coming together here at once. Stealing classified documents, Ukraine, China, money funneling in all over into the Biden family purse. And now the Department of Justice is investigating Hunter and Joe. but no one's being raided. I wonder why. Mike Davis is the president of the Article 3 Project and a former Senate Judiciary Committee chief counsel. Mike, did you find Biden's statement in Mexico City a little intriguing?
It's just not credible. And remember, President Trump had the absolute constitutional power under the Commander-in-Chief Clause and the absolute statutory power under the Presidential Records Act to declassify and take records when he left office as president. And he did that. And he was, the Biden Attorney General Merrick Garland sent an unnecessary, unlawful, unprecedented home raid to go get those documents and made a political charade out of it. What are they doing about then Vice President Joe Biden, who had no power to take these records? This is a clear violation of the Espionage Act for then former Vice President Joe Biden to have these records. And remember, there is smoking gun evidence that Joe Biden, his son Hunter, and Joe's brother James were on Chinese and Ukrainian oligarchs' payrolls, right? So he's clearly compromised. He has these classified records in his possession, and as you discussed in your monologue, Jesse, he actually moved them from January 20th, 2017 until when he moved into the Biden Center at the UPenn in February of 2018. So that shows that he had intent. He knew what he had, and he moved them.
Well, he moved them a couple times. He moved them first in 2017, then he moved them in 2018, and then I guess he just moved them out in 2023. Because he doesn't want someone to be looking at the Iranian nuke deal, the Ukraine corruption, and the Russia collusion hoax. What are we going to do about this?
Well, I'm glad James Comer, the new House Oversight Chairman, has announced he's going to launch an aggressive investigation on this. But Attorney General Merrick Garland must appoint a special counsel to investigate this, just like he did with President Trump. It is a more blatant conflict of interest for Garland to investigate this with his boss being Biden.
Last question, real quick. Can you be charged as president for committing a crime that allegedly before you became president?
Well, that's an open question whether you can charge a sitting president, but the statute of limitations may still have told on a 5-year statute of limitations if he continued to maintain these classified records during that time. And also, there's a 10-year statute of limitations if you give classified materials to foreign agents, which Hunter Biden, James Biden, and maybe even Joe Biden himself were unregistered foreign agents of Ukraine and China.
Okay, well, at least he didn't bleach them like Crooked. Mike, thanks so much.
Thank you.